Good morning, everyone. It is great to be here at the Calgary Cancer Centre on a beautiful Alberta day. I'd like to thank Minister Prasad Panda, Minister for Infrastructure, and Minister of Health Jason Copping for being with me here, as well as Heather Colbert, who is co-chair of the Calgary Cancer Centre campaign. And we have representatives here from Infrastructure Alberta and PCL, the main contractor on this fantastic life-saving project. You know, the last couple of years have been very difficult for Albertans, but buckling down to meet the challenges head on is just what we do as resilient Albertans. Albertans have persevered through COVID-19, and today I'm very excited about the future of our great province. Throughout the fall session of the legislature that just wrapped up, Alberta's government was focused on getting Alberta through the fourth wave of COVID, and we've done that successfully. I want to thank Albertans for stepping up to the plate and making that happen. But we are also focused on continuing to implement Alberta's recovery plan, because we know that we need to make sure every person in this province benefits from our economic turnaround and recovery. Throughout 2021, we've had very encouraging news about Alberta's economy. Of course, energy prices are rising, and so too is energy demand. Our debt is much less than expected at the start of the year, and the second quarter fiscal update showed one of the biggest fiscal turnarounds in the province's history. It's remarkable. Alberta has also recovered nearly all of the jobs lost since the beginning of COVID-19. According to the November jobs report, the province gained 15,000 net new jobs last month. That means 118,000 net new jobs, overwhelmingly in the private sector since the beginning of this year, and we've got December yet to go. So Alberta is hitting its stride as we move into 2022, leading Canada in economic and job growth, and projected to do so again next year as we start the new year. That growth, that job growth, that economic growth is due in large part to Alberta's recovery plan. It is a bold plan to build, to diversify, and to create new jobs, building on our strengths while diversifying the economy. And a big part of that is our plan to build Alberta with unprecedented investments in infrastructure. It started with more than $10 billion in capital investments by Alberta taxpayers last year, a record high for this province, and it's been followed up by our historic $20.3 billion infrastructure plan for this and the next 2 years that is building roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, and critical medical facilities across Alberta. Medical facilities like this state-of-the-art Calgary Cancer Centre where we are today. That represents $1.4 billion of Alberta's building program. And I want to salute as well the Calgary Cancer Centre campaign for having stepped up to the plate with a commitment to raise $250 million on top of that to support additional important equipment, to support research and education and patient care. And indeed, they've already raised $80 million. So I'd like to call on Calgarians to be mindful at this giving season. And I should thank our infrastructure minister, Prasad Panda, because of the $80 million that they've raised, he's responsible for 80,000 of that, which he raised by shaving his ugly mustache last year. So well done, Prasad. And he's now committed to do the same thing next year for the new neonatal center here in Calgary. So that's really giving back. We appreciate it, Prasad. All of us, God knows, have been impacted by cancer in our families, amongst our friends, or personally throughout our lives. And so construction of this place brings hope to so many. And I have great news here today. Construction of this great world-class new cancer center is now 90% complete. Even though we're still away from opening, a year away from opening, we can see that the Cancer Care Centre will save lives and give people the best cancer care available anywhere on earth. In fact, this will be by far the largest and most comprehensive cancer care center in Canada, the second largest in all of North America, and one of the very first that integrates diagnostics and treatment with research and education all under the same roof, bringing it together the world's leading cutting-edge cancer-fighting technology. This is going to be a game changer for current and future patients fighting against cancer. This is where we'll find treatments and medicine that will help tens of thousands of Albertans in their fight to defeat cancer. It will become an international hub for research and innovation that will attract top research scientists from all around the world. Today, I've had the opportunity to speak to some of the folks who are working on this project, including some of the tradespeople, and I can tell you that there's a special feeling here that they're building something that'll help to save so many lives, and people here are excited to be a part of it. As you may know, we have had 7.1 million person hours of work completed on the project so far since it started, and 4.4 million of those were during COVID. And I note that because Alberta was just about the only province in Canada that did not shut down construction through the pandemic. We kept building the province and doing so safely. I want to thank PCL and their subcontractors for having done that. At the peak, they've had as many as 1,600 workers on site, and right now, on any given day, they have between 900 and 1,000. So this is one of the largest builds in the province's history in terms of healthcare, of course. I want to salute the businesses, the contractors and workers who have continued to build the hospital throughout the pandemic, even while, as I say, many places around the country and around the world suspended construction activity. And remarkably, despite the supply chain challenges that are holding back many projects, they are actually slightly ahead of schedule, although Minister Panda tells me not to oversell that because we never know what might happen. But that's very good news, and it's credit to PCL, the subcontractors, and all the workers. Alberta's construction industry worked closely with our public health officials and Alberta Infrastructure to develop common sense health protocols while keeping workers safe and the job site open and Albertans working. Since the start of construction, the Calgary Cancer Centre has been a great economic driver in this city. It's estimated that throughout the duration of this project, we have seen, as I say, 8,777 well-paying construction jobs in this economy on top, if you look at it in that sense. And now a lot of work still needs to be done, but the leadership that has been shown by PCL and the determination of the contractors will get this project completed on time and on budget. In fact, we're on schedule to complete construction of the Calgary Cancer Centre in the fall of 2022, a year from now. Another great reason to be optimistic about the year ahead in Alberta. We are all anxiously waiting for the day when we can be back here and pass the keys to Alberta Health Services to open and commission this great hospital and the gift of hope that it will bring. So I think at Christmas time, it's a wonderful thing to celebrate what will be happening here, to thank all of those who in various ways have made it possible and have contributed. And with that, I'm going to invite Minister Panda to offer some words.
Thank you, Premier. Good morning, everyone. This is a very significant day for Calgarians, Southern Albertans, cancer patients, their families and loved ones. And of course, for all of us who have lost loved ones to cancer, this project has all that much more meaning. I lost my mother and my oldest sister to cancer, and imagine that many in this room have experienced similar pain. Anyway, as the Premier has said, the $1.4 billion Calgary Cancer Centre project is 90% complete. In spite of COVID-19, our dedicated workforce has persevered, and this project continues to be on schedule and on budget. This is such an incredible accomplishment given the challenges that the construction sector has had to deal with. As Premier said, Alberta is the only province, actually, we kept the construction going safely during the pandemic, and that's mostly thanks to the skilled trades and the contractors in Alberta. Both additional health and safety measures on site and global supply chain issues have no doubt impacted the workforce here, making today's news even more impressive. Over the last year, I must admit being dismayed that the media has been missing the forest for the trees when it comes to this project. Every time someone would come down with COVID on site, a flurry of media inquiries would hit my office. And the real story here is thousands and thousands of people working on site every day and putting food on the tables of their families. And the real story here is that the contractor has met all the challenges of the pandemic head on and kept the project on time and on budget. And the real story here is that the world-class facility will serve Southern Alberta for generations. But while this milestone is a great achievement, I must emphasize that there is still a lot of work to do. Over the next year, work will continue throughout this very large project that covers over 2 million square feet of space with 13 above ground floors and 5 levels of underground parking. In fact, initially we planned to attain LEED silver for this facility, but now I am pleased to say that we are on track to attain gold instead of silver for this facility. That's the LEED certification for those who care about sustainability. And presently, we are on schedule to complete the construction, as Premier said, in the fall of 2022. But I just want to caution there are still supply chain issues we are dealing with. On that day, when we complete this, we will all be here to officially announce that the construction has been completed on budget and schedule, and that the project will be handed over to our partners at Alberta Health Services. And I know Minister Copping is counting down the days, as not only is the Minister of Health, but this project is in his riding. And I must share with you that as a local MLA, Minister Copping has been pressing me hard for the last couple of years with his strong advocacy. I should mention that there is a cogen project happening on this Foothills campus. There is a cyclotron and there is a neonatal facility. And also in his riding at the University of Calgary, we're doing a few other projects. So he's a very strong advocate. And also because of all my colleagues like Minister Copping, Calgary Caucus, they have been working hard on behalf of their constituents. So we are building so many schools and other infrastructure projects, transportation projects in Calgary. And since the start of construction of this project in the fall of 2017, the Calgary Cancer Centre project has been a major economic generator and a beacon of hope in Calgary. The Calgary Cancer Centre project is a significant part of Alberta's recovery plan. And when I arrived this morning and I saw the activity that was taking place on the site, it occurred to me that I was seeing the Alberta recovery plan in real time. Of course, construction projects are taking place right across the province, but there is something special about the Calgary Cancer Centre, which is the largest in Canada and most high profile of all the projects that I oversee at Alberta Infrastructure. But indeed, across the province, Albertans are benefiting from good paying jobs, investment in our communities, and the benefits of Alberta Recovery Plan. On this project alone, though as of October, we have tallied 7 million hours of work for Albertans. Each day, 7 days a week, we have about 900 workers on site, installing the wiring and lighting, building the walls, floors, and ceilings, checking the various systems to ensure they are operating, making this modern-day marvel come to life. Projects like Calgary Cancer Centre project protect the livelihoods of tradespeople and others employed in the construction industry. And I'm also pleased that just this week, my bill, the Alberta Infrastructure Accountability Act, passed in the legislature. This bill sets criteria by which large capital projects like Calgary Cancer will be evaluated. we're making sure that Alberta's government is building the right projects for the right reasons. We're also making sure that the projects like these are not just evaluated by their initial sticker price, but the politicians are looking at the total full cost of the project over the decades it will serve Albertans. So again, I would like to thank the contractors, tradespeople, and all those who have worked so hard to get this project completed. The challenge is to keep up the good work. While achieving 90% of the construction being completed is a great milestone, there is still so much more to do over the next year. Currently, we are nearing the completion on the outside of the building, and exterior landscaping has started on paths, driveways, drainage systems, decking, and steps. Most of the systems like mechanical and electrical systems, heating and air conditioning and electricity have been installed and are being tested to ensure that they are functioning as they should. Installation of flooring, walls, and ceiling are well underway. On the lower and the middle floors, cleaning and inspection have started, and some of the workstations, furniture, and equipment have been installed. In the next 6 months to a year, the focus will include construction commissioning activities, touch-ups, and inspections. Testing will start to ensure that all systems are operating properly. Building an extremely large and highly technical project like a state-of-the-art cancer center is always a challenge. I want to stress that while the job is important, the safety of workers is the top priority on all of our project sites. To keep workers safe and job sites open, the Government of Alberta, in conjunction with the public health officials and the construction industry, has and continues to work together to put into place safety protocols and carefully monitor work sites. And for that, I would like to thank contractors like PCL, Dialogue, Stantec, Arup Canada, and everyone else involved, including our Alberta Health Services and others, having kept this work safely continued. And when completed, the Calgary Cancer Centre will be the home to the best comprehensive integrated care for cancer patients and families in Calgary and Southern Alberta. As this project enters the final year of construction, I'll continue to monitor the development of this important project very closely. We can assure you that we'll do everything we can to make sure that we keep this project on time and on budget. I look forward to the day when we celebrate the handover of this new facility to our partners at Alberta Health Services. With that, I would like to thank all of you for taking time to join us today, and I would invite my colleague and local MLA and Minister of Health, Minister Copping, to come and share his comments. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, Premier and Minister Prasad, for coming to the riding. And Minister Prasad is quite right. We are at Alberta Health. We are very excited about this fantastic facility being built here at the Foothills campus, and we can't wait to get in here. And we'll have to have conversations about how we can even do it even sooner, Minister Prasad, and get this up and running. So I'm pleased to be here to mark this important construction milestone on our path to opening the Calgary Cancer Centre. It's been wonderful seeing this facility rise up in the constituency of Calgary Varsity and in my neighborhood, and knowing that when it opens, it will provide the best cancer care and treatment, plus innovative research and technologies to families and neighbors in Calgary and across all of Southern Alberta. We have needed a new cancer centre for a very long time. The Tom Baker Cancer Centre reached its capacity in 2003, almost 20 years ago, and has been bursting at the seams, serving so many people struggling with cancers of all kinds. Thanks to all the dedicated physicians, nurses, and staff for forging forward. We know nearly 1 in 2 Albertans is expected to develop cancer over their lifetime. That's 54 Albertans every day who learn that they have cancer and need expert care and specialized health services during some of the most difficult, challenging, and painful days of their lives. So imagine knowing that one day, sooner rather than later, Calgary will have one of the newest, most advanced cancer centers to help you through that journey. It's a modern facility with double the capacity of the Tom Baker, plus all services offered under one roof. It will have more than 100 chemotherapy chairs, more than 100 patient exam rooms, 160 inpatient unit beds, 12 radiation vaults with room to build 3 more in the future, and outpatient cancer clinics, among many other programs and spaces. While we are nearing the 90% construction completion, there is much more to get done to get this center safe and ready to open its doors to the public in 2023. But each hammer swung, every paint color chosen, each room framed with and wired also builds hope. We are that much closer to filling the space with equipment and furniture, and to seeing nurses and doctors walking down these hallways and into patient rooms to provide advice, give treatment, provide care, and hold a patient's hand in comfort. As the Alberta Cancer Foundation puts it, the more we own cancer, the less it owns us. So congratulations and thanks to the construction crews, to Alberta Health Services, to the staff and all the families looking towards a hopeful future. I look forward to future construction milestones as we continue to strengthen Alberta's public health system with modern facilities built around the needs of patients and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Copping. This concludes the formal portion of today's announcement. We're now going to move over to a media Q&A. Just a couple notes on that. We do have a Unimic here for journalists in the room. I'd ask you to please identify yourself and your news outlet before you ask your question, as well as limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. And please let me know who you're looking to ask questions to. With that, we'll take your first question.
Premier, please. Thanks. Premier Chris Sepp from CTV. The province has millions of rapid tests right now. Why aren't those being distributed to the mass public?
Well, they are being distributed. We're distributing those, for example, through the healthcare system to priority organizations, to many nonprofits and community groups, to people on the front lines. We are distributing them to long-term care, continuing care facilities. We announced several weeks ago the program to roll them out for parents in schools where there have been outbreaks, and I think several 100,000 kits have been distributed that way. And on Tuesday of next week, there will be an announcement about a much broader rollout of the rapid test kits. One of the earlier challenges that we had is that many of these kits were approved by Health Canada only on the condition that they be used for people who are symptomatic. But we have received from the federal government a green light to allow for broader distribution and use. I think the rapid tests, so in fact, I have written to the Prime Minister and raised with him personally the need for Health Canada to accelerate approvals of rapid test kits, because we have had inadequate supply due to the fact that Canada has only a handful of rapid test kits that have been approved. Europe, by comparison, has well over 100 different rapid test products that are on the market, many of which are much easier to use, more consumer friendly. So we continue to work through those supply issues with the federal government, but there will be an announcement early next week about a much broader distribution of rapid antigen test kits.
This is a follow-up to that, though. I mean, but you've said your government has said you've got millions of tests still, and the priorities seem odd too. Right now, if you're a cop that doesn't want to be vaccinated, if you're a city worker that doesn't want to be vaccinated, you can get a test for free still and go about your job. If you're a kid who wants to see his grandparents, if you're someone who's going to, drive to another province and are nervous about it, you have to pay $40 and make an appointment. Does that seem fair?
Well, if you're talking about getting a PCR test, of course, that's a different matter. We do, if people want to get PCR tests for some, like a travel purpose, it's reasonable that they should bear that cost. But in terms of rapid antigen testing, there will be an announcement early next week about a much broader public distribution of those kits. We are concerned that when that starts fully, we won't have adequate supply, which is why we urge the federal government to accelerate through Health Canada the approval of a larger number, easy-to-use rapid antigen test kits.
Sorry, I know this follow-up to that follow-up. Does that mean these tests could be out before Christmas then, if you have that announcement Tuesday?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I just, before we go to our next question here, I just want to give a reminder that I missed that Dr. Dawn Morris, the medical lead for the Calgary Cancer Centre, is also available to answer any technical questions. Just doing a call from the floor here to see if there's anyone.
Bonjour, Charlotte Dumoulin de Radio-Canada. First of all, in English, in French, we've heard this morning Ottawa saying that it is still risky to do a trip abroad. What will be then your policy this year for Christmas for your MLAs, the ministers, and the Albertans that want to go abroad for Christmas?
I'm sorry, could you clarify what is this information from Ottawa?
They said that it was still risky with the Omicron variant to go.
So the latest information I have is that the federal government does not have an advisory against travel generally, but they do have advisories or information about specific countries, and they are saying on their Health Canada website to be careful about which countries you travel to. I don't believe that's changed.
No,
Correct.
but they said that because of the uncertainty, it was still risky for.
So listen, the guidance that we've given to members of the government caucus is the same guidance that members of the general public have, which is that travel is permissible. There are not advisories, neither federal nor provincial advisories against travel at this time, but that people should take care. Of course, there is a requirement that they be fully vaccinated to board an aircraft now, and that there are additional protocols in place to ensure safe travel. So we expect MLAs, public servants, to follow the same rules that are applied to the general public in that regard. And en français, pour dire que notre attente est que les députés et les fonctionnaires suivent les mêmes règles que le grand public. Il n'y a pas une règle contre les voyages actuellement, mais évidemment, le gouvernement fédéral a suggéré que les gens prennent soin et soient prudents quand ils prennent les voyages. Et évidemment, il y a les mesures plus rigoureuses en ce qui concerne les voyages, par exemple, l'obligation fédérale d'être complètement vacciné pour voyager quelque part en avion.
OK. Donc, ce que je comprends, c'est que ça va être les mêmes règles pour vous et que le fédéral.
C'est le même. Oui, exact. L'Alberta n'a aucune avisoire contre les voyages depuis juillet. Le fédéral a laissé tomber leur déclaration contre les voyages, je crois, en septembre. Ils ont ajouté les mesures supplémentaires comme l'obligation d'être vacciné.
Question, ça a déjà été posé en anglais, donc juste en français. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de cette demande du NPD de donner des tests rapides aux étudiants pour le temps des fêtes?
On a déjà lancé un programme pour distribuer les tests rapides aux parents des enfants qui fréquentent les écoles où nous avons vu les cas de COVID-19. Alors, nous avons déjà dispersé centaines de milliers des tests rapides aux parents dans ce contexte-là. Mardi prochain, nous ferons une annonce pour une beaucoup plus grande distribution des tests rapides, mais à la fin, ça dépend sur combien de tests que nous avons, parce que il y a une pénurie des tests rapides au Canada. Le Santé Canada a approuvé seulement quelques tests rapides. Par contre, en Europe, ils ont approuvé plus d'une centaine des tests rapides qui sont beaucoup plus faciles pour les consommateurs. Alors, c'est la raison pour laquelle j'ai lancé un appel auprès du Premier ministre pour accélérer au Santé Canada l'approbation des tests rapides pour qu'on puisse avoir le volume de tests dont nous aurons besoin avec ce programme beaucoup plus élargi. I'll say that in English, yeah? We have distributed, I believe, hundreds of thousands of rapid test kits to parents of kids who have been in schools where there have been COVID outbreaks. But we will be announcing early next week a much broader rollout of rapid test kit availability to the general public, although that will be dependent on how much supply we have, because we have limited supply. It likely will be inadequate for the demand that we expect, which is why I reiterate my call on the federal government to accelerate the approval of rapid test kits through Health Canada. We have only a few rapid test kits approved in this country. Europe has well over 100, and they have many of the more consumer-friendly, easier-to-use rapid test kits that would be helpful. So we'll continue to work with the federal government on the supply issue while also rolling out easier access to those tests here in Alberta.
Hi there, Jeff Slack, City News 660. Another off-topic question. Your COVID cabinet is going to discuss restrictions for the holiday come next week, but Christmas is about 2 weeks away. So do you think you're cutting it a little close on what people should be doing that time?
We'll be very clear about the framework for public health next Tuesday. That's the same day that the state of public health emergency lapses. And we hope, based on current trends, that by that time we will have reached or be very close to our goal of getting down to 173 total intensive care admissions. That number is important because that allows us to go to 100% of surgical capacity. We no longer have to set aside surgical beds, for example, for COVID patients. So we're getting close. We're getting close. Numbers are going to continue to move in the right direction. And December 14th, the state of public health emergency will lapse. That's why we think it's the right time for us potentially to move forward with some modest common sense relaxation of measures for Christmas holidays. You know, we've got to be very careful about this. We're all concerned about the Omicron variant. And we do expect there will be future waves. There will be a fifth wave at some point. We're already seeing in Eastern North America, in other provinces, numbers start to pick up. This is inevitable. Respiratory viruses like this operate on cycles. They operate driven in part by seasonality. So we can fully expect, I think, at some time in the winter, for numbers to begin to track back up here. And that may be driven by Omicron. So we need to get our baseline numbers down to a satisfactory level for us to be able to proceed with relaxation. At the same time, and this is the thing we're going to have to look at very closely, how do we ensure that there's widespread public buy-in to the measures? Because, you know, I can tell you my own family, I'll be gathering with 3 family members, all together, we're all fully vaccinated, come from 3 households, only 4 people. But we wouldn't be able to do that at Christmas based on the current rules. I don't want to create a situation where we have millions of Albertans violating the rules when we're not in a current emergency situation. So that's what we're looking at on Tuesday. We'll be very clear, and that information will be available next week.
Yeah, and I guess just more to that, you know, we're kind of fatigued at this point. It is like the second Christmas year. So kind of expanding on that, you know, how are you, if you were to introduce any sort of measures, how are you going to ensure that people are actually going to follow them this year?
At the end of the day, it is all about voluntary compliance. And this is not a police state. Unlike Australia and some other places, we're not going to put a cop on every corner to check people's papers when they leave their homes or go to visit somebody. That's not who we are as a society. What we have done is to call on people to act responsibly, and Albertans clearly have done that through the 4th wave to really crush that spike. We just, you know, I think the vast majority of people want to be COVID careful, but they also want to be able to celebrate Christmas with family and friends in a safe way, and they're right to want both of those things. So that's what we've got to take on board as we figure out the best policy approach.
Hi there, again for the Premier, Michael King, Global News. One about the Cancer Centre. The fact that this is...
Shocker.
I know. That this project has spanned so many governments. What should the public take away when we've got a project of this size that's able to be completed through so many governments?
Well, it's impossible to build a project like this overnight. It's always going to be a multi-year project, and I think it reflects the public desire for the best possible cancer care. Like I said, I think all of us have lost loved ones to cancer. We probably all know somebody who's currently struggling with cancer right now. So this is very personal for everyone. It totally transcends party lines. I will note that the official opposition tried to run a fear campaign in the last election, saying that a United Conservative government would cancel this project and kill it. That was never true. That's absolutely clear today, as this is 90% complete. This should never be a project like this should never be used as a partisan football. This is a community uniting initiative to help save lives, and it will make Alberta a world leader when it comes to combating cancer, not just diagnostic and treatment, but also research and education, which are critical to the longer-term fight to defeat cancer.
And we know that building the building is one step, but we're staffing it as well. What steps is the province taking to make sure that day one this is fully staffed?
Well, I'll invite Minister Copping to respond, but I will say that the healthcare budget has increased in Alberta by a couple of $billion from 19 to 21 billion. There are more doctors working in Alberta now than at any time in our history, and more nurses. And obviously, with the look, most of the people working here will be transitioning from other locations, such as the Tom Baker Cancer Centre. So it will not require significant incremental additional staff. A lot of the folks will just be moved over here to work. But AHS obviously has a workforce strategy for the centre, and Minister Copping, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure, Premier, thank you. And as the Premier already noted, we're going to be moving some staff from that's currently in the Tom Bakers over here. There is a workforce strategy to be able to hire more staff in this. And on top of that, we also do recognize that there is, when we look at overall demands for staff around the province, and this is one of the key objectives that the Premier has given me in terms of how do we increase capacity generally. One of those areas is looking at, we need more, even though we have more doctors and more nurses now than we ever had before, that need is going to increase over time. So it's looking at how do we change processes to be more efficient, number one. But number two, looking at and working with the Ministry of, my former Ministry of Labour, Minister Shandro, looking at working with Minister Nicolaides to be able to train more people within our province so we can hire them and also welcome more people through our new immigration streams into our province to make sure that we have the staff not only here at the Cancer Centre but around the province.
Okay, just before we take our last question from the floor, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder that if there's any technical questions about the construction, the timeline, or anything, as this is still a project with Infrastructure Alberta, Minister Panda is more than happy to answer any of those questions for you as well. So we can just take our last question from the floor before jumping over to the phones.
I'm glad you mentioned that because my question was for Infrastructure Minister Prasad Panda. So, hello, Minister Panda. My name is Daniel Barco Tremblay from St. News File here in Calgary. So, I just have a couple questions for you. The first question I have is throughout your speech there, you said that you were touching the I guess on topic of the percentage of the construction or whatever, but what is the percentage of construction and what is the percentage of the completion of the project here in the building that we're standing in right now?
Thank you for that question. In fact, we get rarely any questions because although media get to talk to Premier and Health Minister every single day, but I'm glad to answer your question. So the project is 90% complete, give or take. And the remaining 10% is on track. You might wonder why would it take for the remaining 10% another year or so. It's mainly because the devils are in detail. So the last 10% is mostly to connect that instrumentation and sophisticated electronic equipment and make the systems to speak to each other. It's amazing during the construction when me and Minister Copping toured and we looked at all that equipment behind the walls. It's all that wiring and it's amazing. So those are the things we are trying to finish in the last 10%. And also we had to install the equipment and furniture and commission that and all the last minute cleanups because this is a very important cancer facility. The cleanup takes a lot of time because there are multiple levels of cleanup and the hygienity standards. So that's why we don't want to, at the last minute, we don't want any missteps. So we're doing everything, but at the same time, I'm asking Minister Copping to involve AHS partners to speed up that final commissioning as well.
Okay, that's awesome. And the final question I have here is speaking of the supply chain that you mentioned earlier, what's happening to alleviate the supply chain problems?
So luckily, thanks to the proactive actions taken by Alberta Infrastructure, our contractor, PCL, and also Alberta Health Services in collaboration, we preempted most of the risk in supply chain disruptions because of COVID. A lot of this equipment and furniture and instrumentation stuff are coming from all over the world. We got most of it, but there could be last-minute hindrances here and there. We're trying to eliminate that risk, but so far it's under control. We're still tracking on time, and if we are lucky, we should be able to finish it a little bit sooner.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
We'll now jump over the phones to take our last question of the day. Operator, can you please put through our caller?
Amanda Anderson, CTV.
Hi there. My question is for the Premier. I'm going to circle back to rapid tests. We're hearing concerns from parents about sort of the process, I guess, with providing schools that have declared outbreaks with the test, that it's taking several days. The school has to request them, and it takes several days to actually get into the hands of the school and parents. So I guess, why not have some of these tests already in schools, ready to go, instead of having that delay?
That's a good question. I had not heard of those complaints. We did announce that we'd be making we're setting aside a huge volume of tests for potential outbreaks. The good news is we've had far, far fewer school outbreaks than we were expecting. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had set aside 600,000 tests for these purposes, and we haven't nearly come close to that number of that have been required. My recollection is I think we currently have about 23 schools on outbreak alert. So out of something like 2,100 schools across the province. So we haven't had to use all those tests that we have, and we can look now, I think, at a wider distribution. We'll be making an announcement about that on Tuesday, as I mentioned, not just for kids in class, but also for the general population. Jason, do you have anything to add? That's good.
And Amanda, do you have a follow-up today?
Yes, just wondering if you can refresh how many tests the province has and when do they expire?
Mr. Coppin, do you have that information?
Sorry, my recollection, but we'll maybe get officials to get back to you on that. That we have, we've distributed roughly 6.5 million. We have roughly 4 million, I think, that was provided out yesterday on hand. In terms of the expiry date, my understanding they're still all valid, but the exact details we can get back. We can get officials to get back to you with that.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes today's media availability. Thanks, everyone.